Hey guys, we're back to the Jak and Daxter marathon. Last time we looked at the Jak and Daxter Precursor Legacy. I thought it was pretty good, even though it was short and easy, and you could power through it in 6 hours, even if it's your first time. There were some problems with it, but hey, what they got right, they did right. So now we're going to be looking at the sequel, Jak 2, also known as Jak 2 Renegade in Europe and Australia. First, there's Jak and Daxter the Precursor Legacy. It did well for Naughty Dog and it went to sell well. A sequel was bound to happen, but what were they going to do? What could they add to the game to make it different enough to not different quality? Well, let's pop this game in and see. Now this game is drastically different compared to the last game, mostly in tone and gameplay. This game just added guns, missions, and driving. I've always found it kind of weird how Jak 2 got a PG rating in Europe but got a T rating in North America. Anyway, when I first played this game a few years back, I absolutely hated it. I just thought it was too hard and didn't like the guns, but that was years ago. Maybe my opinions have changed. And we'll start off with the story, but first, spoiler warning, if you haven't played this game yet and you want to, or you already know what's going on for a while now, please skip to this part of the video. I'll give you 5 seconds. If you collected all power cells in the last game, you get a small little cutscene that shows you a door glowing. In this game, it showed as a precursor lift, so Kira tinkers with it to set it up. Jak presses a button and...
Hey folks, viewer mail time again! Oh, here's one from Sally, age 14. Dear Pig, aren't you interrupting the story at the most suspenseful part? Well, the answer is yes, Sally. Yes, I am. Keep those cards and letters coming!
I want on this thing! Find yourself, Jak!
After that happens, the gang gets split up and Jak and Daxter arrive at a town named Haven City. Literally seconds after, people show up to take him away. Daxter craps himself and runs away to start his own PSP spin-off game, and Jak gets taken away. A whole 2 years has passed, and the Baron has been pumping a dark ego into Jak for all those years. After Daxter gets tired of having his own adventure, he comes back to Jak. Jak gets so excited, he says his first words.
I'm gonna kill Praxis! What the heck was that? Sheesh! Remind me not to piss you off!
The two bust out of prison and meet a boy and a man named Core. After beating up the Crimson Guard with a K, Core tells Jak that there's an underground fighting against the Baron. And for them to get into the underground, they need to steal the Baron's flag. This is kind of where the story just pauses. Anything from now to their first boss is just filler. Jak and Daxter find out that the Baron is meeting up with the Metalhead leader. He pays him an ego to keep the Metalheads out the city. Later on, we found out that Haven City is actually our world, but in the future. This kid, who is apparently the heir to the throne, has to go on some trials to prove himself worthy. He's too young, so Jak does it himself, and finds the Precursor Stone at the end of the trials, which is the best level of the game. But Praxis finds it before we do, and plans to break it open. The destruction has left the crew, who just died into an explosion. Jak and Daxter return to the city, only to find Metalheads are still there. It's revealed that Core is actually the Metalhead leader, so he destroys half the Baron's forces, and Jak and Daxter confront him for a final showdown. Before dying, he actually reveals that the boy is a young Jak, which honestly just raises so many questions. Anyway, instead of Jak, Daxter, and Samos going back to their own timeline, they send young Jak and young Samos, which makes a lot more sense if you play the game for yourself, back to the hut. Daxter now owns a bar, and they live the rest of their lives in Haven City. The story kind of drags and sometimes feel like it's going nowhere, but I honestly really enjoyed it. While Jak 2 adapts well to its dark tone, there's still a lot of humor to it and doesn't feel out of place. All the characters in this game are way more engaging than the pieces of wood in the last game. Samos and Kira return from the last game, but there's also Torn, who's the second command in the underground, Ariel, who just kinda shows up at Jak's rival in the racing section of the game, but then offs himself off for losing the last race, Sig, who is a metal hunter slash wastelander, Tons of Fun Kuru, who gives us most of our gun upgrades, Ashlyn, the Baron's daughter, who has really nice facial tattoos, Tess, an even bigger advocate of bestiality than Princess Elise, Vin, the paranoid scientist, and Onan and Pecker, the wise woman that Pecker translates. Like I said, sometimes the story feels like it's going nowhere, but the cutscenes and the characters' interactions really make this world feel more alive than the first game, and they're just great to watch, especially with the graphical upgrade. The first game's gameplay style can be compared to Banjo-Kazooie's structure, Jak 2, Grand Theft Auto. Okay, let's start off with what's more similar to the first game. Jak has his old moveset back. He can slide punch, long jump, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Because of the Baron's experiment, Jak can turn into an alter ego called Dark Jak. Dark Jak makes mincemeat out of enemies. You get stronger melee attacks, and he's just all around faster than regular Jak. I'm sure you notice whenever you kill a metalhead, some yellow orb pops out. These are called metalhead orbs. If you collect a certain amount of metalhead orbs, you can take them to the Oracle machine and it gives you powers to effectively use Dark Jak. Like a punch explosion, a death tornado spin, and it also makes him invincible. It isn't until an hour in the game where you get your first gun. Adding gun gameplay to a series where the first game didn't have any? Where have I heard that from before? Okay, all jokes aside, the gun gameplay actually fits in better than you think it would. There are 4 guns that you can use. There's a scatter gun, which is pretty much the equivalent to a shotgun. Its range is pretty short, but it does deal with small enemies. The morph gun, which is the gun you can spin around to shoot multiple enemies, which we'll probably be using a lot. The Vulcan Fury, which fires faster but with low damage. And the Peacemaker, that shoots a lightning bolt that stings enemies at the same time. All the guns have their uses in the game, but you'll probably use the morph gun because A, has the best range, and B, you can shoot it multiple times. While you'll probably get used to the gun gameplay, this game is pretty hard, more towards the end of the game, but I will get to that later. Anyway, Jak controls the same as the last game, so pretty much flawless. The enemies are always ganging up on you and there aren't a lot of invisibility frames, so don't be surprised if your health drops to 0 really fast. And to top it all off, not a dog for what checkpoints are, so if you're made a lot of progress and you died either from enemy placement or mistimed jump, you have to start all the way from the beginning. And what's annoyingly inconsistent is that some missions have well-placed checkpoints and some missions seem to have no checkpoints whatsoever. This is how the game's structured. You grab a car, you drive to a mission marker, listen to someone complain, and then you do that mission. There's also a lot of driving in this game, which I honestly don't know why this game gets so much shit for it. The only time I actually find it annoying is when you complete one mission and have to backtrack to the next marker on the map, only to hear that someone needs something to be done again. While I can agree that some of these cars control pretty poorly, except for the small ones, I don't really mind driving. While missions take up most of the focus, there's still a platformer every once in a while. One of my favorite missions is when you solve this cube puzzle. You need to knock these cubes to make a bridge while also taking into account how many cubes are left. It really felt rewarding finally figure out this pattern. There's also a lot of variety in between each mission. Sometimes you'll be riding a hoverboard, other times you'll be doing motor races, which I honestly don't really mind the first and second races, but it's the final race with Arrow that really grinds on me gears. I swear it's near impossible to make this shortcut without crashing, and on top of that, the other racers really love to grind into you so much. I thought I was playing Jak 2, not Boating Bash. There's also turn sections which are mostly fine, but this one in particular really pisses me off. I swear the first section, the enemy designers decided to spam Crimson Guard everywhere. Sometimes you won't be able to see most of them because you'll be too busy taking on one of them, causing you to fucking die. The last 2 sections aren't really as bad because they focus on shooting the blimps out the sky, and they didn't spam as much Crimson Guards as the last sections. At least there's checkpoints in between each section. If you died and had to complete the entire mission from the beginning, this mission would be fucking unplayable. While all of these missions are hard, it's kind of fun, kind of hard. When I finally complete this mission, I get a satisfactory feeling when I beat a hard mission. It's kind of like the satisfaction you get when you complete the perfect run from Mario Galaxy 2, or collect all the gems to get the hidden ending from Crash Bandicoot Trilogy. Throughout the first 3 acts, the game's challenge is pretty fair. Sure, there's an occasional massive difficulty spikes, but that pales. It weeps in comparison to all the bullshit I had to deal with in the final third. In fact, this part of the game is so hard, it made me want to do something I've always wanted to do, mainly because to save some editing. Rage mode. This section of the video is going to contain a lot of uncensored swearing, so if you don't like any of that, please skip to this part of the video, so don't say I didn't warn you. I swear, almost every single mission in this last third is just so painful. First is this escort mission with Sig. I mentioned how scarce checkpoints are in this game, but this is where it really starts to piss me off. You have to solve this puzzle and where you have to knock the cubes into a hole, except it blows up. In the last section where Sig gets ambushed, you have to get these cubes in the hole before you die, and at any point, you're sent back to the beginning. Next is this stupid ass boss with Crew. I swear it's impossible to kill these little blobs without getting hit yourself. And when Crew comes down to fight you, sometimes he even blindsides you. And when he blew up alongside with the tower, I said, "Yeah, eat it, bitch!" Then you have to escort these 3 dickheads who can't defend themselves for anything, but have no problem busting a cap on you if you accidentally hit one of them. And that one mission where you have to find the Heart of Mar, where the enemies are spammed left and right, it's especially annoying when you're on the edge of a platform and the Crimson Guard shoots you down, causing you to die. Final race of Errol is the worst out of all of them. There's a stupid ass mech scene which is slow, it's sluggish, and it's not really suited to combat, which really defeats the purpose of a mech, don't you think, Naughty Dog? The mech is easily the worst part of the game, and one of the missions, they just had to put it underwater. What fucking asshat came up with that idea? Okay, I calmed down. Let's go back to being somewhat family friendly. Anyway, let's go on to the bosses. They are 10 times better than they were in the first game. I love, especially the one in the second half where you knock all these boulders back at the Baron. The final boss with Core is pretty hard, but it's still a pretty good boss battle. Precursor orbs make a return here too, but unlike the first game, they're spread out through the entire world. Hunting them in levels can be a complete chore to do because they're spread out in the most obscure places. A large portion of them can be found at Haven City challenges, like flying through rings or finding them based off an image. There are a total of 286 Precursor orbs in this game, and I really have a long way to go because when I beat the game, I only had 48 Precursor orbs. When you collect all 286 Precursor orbs, you unlock Hero Mode, a lot harder version of the game. All weapon models are unlocked from the start, but to make up for it, all enemies are a lot harder to kill. So if you didn't thought the game was hard enough before, so try this then. To this day, I still have not tried out Hero Mode, but I have to be really bored to ever consider it. Maybe I'll stream myself doing it. I know you guys love to see me torture myself for your amusement. Graphically, this game looks great to this day. I mean, considering the fact that the first game was already bright and colorful, this game didn't really have to improve on much. Although playing on a widescreen TV does make things a little bit dark, but the game is pretty beautiful, all things considered. The character models have also gotten a great upgrade since the last game. I mean, for 2003, these character models look like they should be on a PS3 game. Daxter no longer looks constipated. Jak has more expressions than just why am I with this guy. And even Kira and Samus got a nice upgrade. It's not really in the way of memorable music. I mean, it's not a bad soundtrack, but it's mostly ambience without a memorable beat or riff. I can't really remember any song to save my life, well, except the one we were flying in Haven City, and when Daxter is being chased by Boulder. Voice acting has also been improved since the last game. Mike Irwin does a great Jak, Max Casala is amazing with Daxter as always, and Clancy Brown is great as a Baron. Does anyone else wonder why Clancy Brown voice acting in Naughty Dog games? I've always dreaded the day I had to go back to this game. I've always just thought of Jak 2 as just an unfair, unpolished, and just an impossible game. While Founder 3rd does suck ass, Jak 2 is so far my favorite in the trilogy. Haven City feels more alive than the last game. New characters are way more engaging than the break walls in the last game, and even though adding gun gameplay sounds like an awful idea on paper, it actually works well in the game's favor. Even with the unfair difficulty at times, I actually recommend this game. It mostly feels good conquering these really hard missions, but I don't really recommend going after all the Precursor orbs. Jak 2 was critically acclaimed when it first came out. IGN gave it a 9.5, Metacritic gave it a 87%, and GameSpot gave it a 9.1 out of 10. Naughty Dog no doubt has some massive shoes to fill, and with only 1 year later we got treated to the last game in the trilogy, Jak 3. But that's for next time, so I'm going to do my best to try to play this game as fast as I can, so that I can get the review out by the end of July. So, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace. Wow. And I missed again. Nope. Oh, I am ruining this box right now. Look at this. Just look at this crack right here.
I say it's time we take this fight to the metalhead leader himself. What a trophy he'll make. We find a way to juice up Mars' old gun, and then boom, baby! We storm the nest, guns blazing. Hell, we'll take them all on together. You and me, side by side. Nothing'll stop us, cause
Hey folks, viewer mail time again. Oh, here's one from Sally, age 14. Dear Pig, aren't you interrupting the story at the most suspenseful part? Well, the answer is yes, Sally. Yes, I am. Keep those cards and letters coming.